So, I decided to start again. Or if you're seeing this for the first time, hello, Chris Piercer here of Wedding Industry Wisdom. Um, yeah, Jack's having trouble connecting and then joining in, so I've gone live again, and let's see if we can add him in. Because that would be kind of helpful.
Hello.
Not the best connection, I don't think, but we'll see what we can do.
I mean, I am in the same position I am every single week. So,
No, it seems to be slightly improved on what it was. So, I can't help but notice you seem to have a boo-boo on your
yeah, I don't
cheek,
know what that is.
which you didn't seem to have when we were speaking earlier, and we were only speaking half an hour ago. So I'm I'm not going to demand an explanation, of course, but I'm intrigued as to what has occurred between half an hour ago and now.
I honestly have no idea. It's probably just I'm a bit hot and flustered because I've just eaten soup very quickly.
Well, I did tell you to eat later, but you just don't. You know better.
I do know better, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I said that we've been working far too hard on our website today. We've spoken for about 19 hours. I've roughly estimated it to be, as it's
I think that's an underestimate, if anything.
yeah, it's probably longer than that. But we are happy with how things are progressing, and I've unscrewed the website at the last minute, so that's good.
Winner!
Nothing, nothing. Hello to Denise and hello to Mark Waddington. Thank you for joining us. There's nothing like making changes to your website just before you're about to go live and potentially send a whole bunch of people to your website. That's how the pros do it, right?
That is how the pros do it.
Totally how the pros do it, definitely. So we've got quite a lot to catch up on.
We do. Are you ready to start recording?
Oh yeah, we record these, don't we? Yeah, the coding's giving me. It's
Oh, this is going to be fun.
wonderful. Look, I was the one that was on time, right? So shut up. Okay, I'm going to start recording now. Hello there, Chris Piercy here of Wedding Industry Wisdom. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, Jack Brister is here too.
Hello.
A bit unenthusiastic for my liking, but what can we do?
Hello! Is that better?
Um, I don't really know. I just feel a bit weirded out by that. Um, but what can you do? I'm just playing on my levels here because they're a little bit crap, if I'm completely honest.
It's disappointing, Chris. It's almost like people might start to think we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, quite possibly. My levels are still not great, but we're going to run with it because it's 9 minutes past seven, and people have been expecting top quality content for at least 7 minutes now. So I feel like we should potentially deliver on that. Mark Waddington says he's bought the Closer book. Interesting read. Yes, we've released a brand new product this week, and it's very nearly our best seller ever within what 60 hours, 72
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, about that. Yeah, I just want to make a very quick point that Marcus said it's an interesting read. Now, if he means by interesting good, then I was part of the writing process. If it was interesting bad, then Chris wrote the whole thing, and I just read it and approved it.
Okay, so just to be absolute honesty and clarity about this, as a percentage, what percentage would you say you wrote of our latest product?
Less than 10%.
10.
If that, it was probably about 10%. Yeah. I mean, you didn't give me a chance to write any of it. You said to me, "I've got this idea," and then about 2 days later, you said, "I've written 8,000 words."
Yeah. No, yeah, I think you added a good 3%, but it was a good it was a good 3%.
I think it's the best 3%, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, that's for the people to decide. So yes, I'd be interested to hear Mark's thoughts on that. For those of you who don't know Mark, he is probably Yorkshire's best magician.
Wow, that's high praise indeed. What are there, like two or three magicians in Yorkshire?
I don't know. He's the only one. He's who I think of when I think of a Yorkshire magician. So I
I mean,
think,
that's a very good description. I think that describes him very well indeed.
so yes, yeah, I'm gonna say it. If there's other, where's Jordan O'Grady
I
from?
mean,
Sheffield, is that in Yorkshire?
to be fair, Lawrence is currently on here, and Lawrence is also a Yorkshire-based magician, but he does also do balloon modelling, so I feel like we can get away with that.
Yeah. Many people in Yorkshire are good at magic. I'm just going to be very, very
Vague.
vague. It's going to plant my arse firmly on the fence. Because and we had Sourdough Sarah watching for a second ago, and then she's disappeared again. I don't know if she's still here or not, but
That's
and she's back
disappointing.
again. Um, so yeah, if
So
go
Sarah
on.
says she's not working. She's here. Nice to see you, Sarah. How are you? Whilst we wait for Sarah to reply, the big news of the because of course we weren't here last week. We weren't live. We had our training call, a coaching call, which we recorded and put out for you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. But the big news that's happened in the last 2 weeks that we need to talk about first and foremost is Chris. What have you done to your foot?
I thought you were actually going to save this for a bit later.
No, no, no. We're coming straight in with this.
So I've broken my little toe.
How did you break your little toe, Chris?
Um, So, for those of you who have known anything at all about this, I have a slip disc. Yes, still. I have an epidural on, a steroid epidural on Thursday to attempt to cure it. But it's been getting worse to the point where I'm really struggling to put any weight on my left leg. So, being the pragmatic person that I am, I thought I would acquire some crutches to help with the walking process. So a neighbor was able to acquire some for me, gave them to me, and I started using them to kind of get around the house. Within 5 minutes, literally, I think maybe 3.5, within 3.5 minutes, I'd managed to catch my right little toe on one of the crutches whilst using it and thought, oh, that's a little bit painful. I've stubbed my toe pretty hard there, and then I took off my sock to find my little toe pointing out at about 60 degrees as to where it should have been, and gone, oh bugger, it looks like I've dislocated my toe. Um, so,
I know it's not funny, but it's also hilarious.
um, so not one person hasn't laughed at the reaction, and I haven't told you the best part about this yet.
Okay.
Um, the best part of it was I phoned 111 and said, look, I explained the situation, and because I didn't know, because I've got a minor injuries place which is just like 2 minutes away, or I've got a hospital, like A&E, proper hospital, that's like 15 minutes away. And I'd much rather go to the 111 because it didn't actually hurt that much, believe it or not. And I just thought, oh, it's just okay, they'll just pop it back in and it'll be fine. But anyway, so I ended up them saying go to the A&E. There was an accident on the road to go there, so it took an hour to get there basically. Got there, sat in the waiting room for about an hour before the triage nurse saw me, and she said, "Oh, what can I do for you?" And I explained, basically told, regaled her with the same story about my back and how I used the crutches. So I was talking about my back and stuff like that. So she was kind of looking at my body. Whilst down here I had on a right foot with no sock on it, with a toe pointing out at a strange angle. And I said to her, "Oh, I just wanted someone to relocate my toe if that's possible because I think I've dislocated it." And she kind of looked down and went, "Oh shit!" Um, in in the very professional way that the medical professionals do. She's like, "Oh yes, I think you have." Turns out I wasn't. Yeah, turns out I wasn't lucky enough to actually to have dislocated it, but I had actually broken it, which meant that not only, which I meant I had to have, I had broken it in such a way that it needed to be there to reset the fracture, which meant I got to use gas and air, which was basically the highlight of my year. Um, so yes, that was my Thursday, and I still managed to go out and perform at a wedding on Saturday with a slip disc and a broken toe, um, and a 3-hour round trip. Um, it's your sympathy that people love you for.
I mean, I would feel bad about laughing if your partner didn't also laugh when she came home.
She like literally walked in the door and burst out laughing at me. It was like there was not even there wasn't even like a second before she started laughing. She just walked in, looked down, saw my toe, burst out laughing. So there you go.
It's good.
So far everyone is learning lots of great information about how to run their wedding business from this current episode of which podcast are we doing today? Wedding
The
Industry
Wedding is
Wisdom one.
Jerusalem one. Okay, so
Oh,
let's
so
move
good.
on. So because we weren't here last week, we obviously didn't run through what went on in the group and the interesting things that happened. So we've got 2 weeks of that to go through, which means that's
Ooh.
probably going to take up our entire time on the podcast today. I'm going to start with your post you put out 2 weeks ago, Chris, and I want to know why you did it because I didn't actually ask you at the time. It's your question was, when seeing a Facebook post, how many likes/reactions does it have to make you think that that's a lot of likes?
Okay, I completely forgotten. I was wondering where you were going with that. It's due to something I wanted to test within Facebook advertising, and I was going to do a little post about this, but I decided that I haven't got enough data yet. But I'll just talk about it now. So, um, off the back of what came from our last live about me writing a blog post in response to the thing about videographers or photographers being really expensive, I wrote that blog post, right? And I shared it on the group, and I then ran a Facebook advertising campaign, running it to people within about 80 kilometers of where I am, who are interested in weddings and interested in photography, with the idea that it would be seen by wedding photographers. And lo and behold, yes, it was seen by an awful lot of wedding photographers. It was liked by a lot of wedding photographers. It was shared by a lot of wedding photographers, thus fulfilling its entire purpose of getting a huge amount of organic reach off the back of some paid advertising as well. Now, the reason I asked about why it, at what number do you go, ooh, is because I wanted to know myself, you know, from people's perspectives, at what point do you see a post and go, oh, that's got a lot of likes, as in that's worth paying a little bit more attention to, because I don't know if people realize this or not, but what you can do is you can put a lot of people think of Facebook advertising as in boosting posts, but that is not. It's completely different things. But what you can do with Facebook advertising is get the ID of a post that you've put on Facebook, and then use that as an ad, and then you can keep using that, and you can keep using it over and over and over again. So what I was doing was I was seeing at what level I had to get to before people started going, oh, that's quite a bit, but not many people responded. But I decided myself that once something's got more than 50 likes or 50 reactions on it, that's when people start to go, oh, that's quite a lot. It's because people tend to put like 5 or 10 or 20, whatever, something like that. But 50 is a lot, and this was up to something like 70 or 80. So what I decided to do is once it reached a level where it was about 55, I think it was at, I decided to stop running as ad to wedding photographers and then rerun the same post, exactly the same post, to the two people in the same area who were my ideal client. Because what that does is by using the same post again, it will show you all the comments that have been on there, all the likes that are on there, all the reactions that are on there, all the shares that are on there, and it has this massive element of social proof. So rather than an advert coming up and saying no likes, no comments, no nothing, you've got an advert coming up saying 83 likes, however many loves, this many shares, and this many comments, which just has that much more draw to it. So basically, it was a question about at what point does social proof become social proof? In a nutshell, a very
Right.
big one.
That makes sense. And so, did you notice a big difference or a big change, or did you know like between a normal running ad and the boosted post of the post, if that makes sense?
I would say it did as well as I expect most of my ads to do. So like I said like 2 minutes ago, I don't think I've got enough data. I've not done enough splits
Yeah.
but I've drafted another blog today which falls into the same sort of category of potentially being shared. But the bottom line is that I got thousands and something like 10,000 extra organic reach upon
Right.
what I'd normally get because it was shareable content for photographers. And then if a wedding photographer is sharing content, then that's who I want. They're going to be sharing it with people who are potentially getting married,
Yeah.
and all of it is just being this idea of being everywhere, right? It's where you know even if no one makes an inquiry, even if no one even reads anything, if they just see my name, it's a little touch point that says Chris Piercy exists as a magician.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bottom line is I don't have enough data yet.
Fair enough. Makes sense. It'll be interesting to test it a little bit further, see what happens, and obviously keep us informed about that.
Yep.
So we'll move us straight on to a comment that was made by Brett Cyril last week. It was a discussion point he wanted to bring up. And while it's specifically aimed at magicians, I feel like it is something that can be expanded beyond just magicians as a comment. It is, if we're not careful, magicians are facing the dangers of becoming the next chocolate fountain wedding fad. True, avoidable or unavoidable? What are your thoughts on that? Was Brett's post.
I think I put my comments in there quite plainly.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't matter whether you're talking chocolate fountain or sweet cart or magician or photographer or whatever. It comes down to how well you sell yourself. You know, I think that magicians are on a bit of a crest of a wave at the moment, but I think that in 10 years' time, I think I probably already know the ones that are still going to be in business compared to the ones who aren't.
yes,
And those are the ones who, market themselves well, who put themselves out there, have created something more memorable than just, oh, the guy that does tricks. You've got to, that idea of branding and marketing and being memorable and making sure you're selling the right thing. That is the whole thing in a nutshell. So, yeah, I don't know how you. I mean, the person that actually runs a chocolate fountain who responded, half the stuff she said had never crossed my mind to do with a chocolate fountain. I hadn't even considered for a second the quality of the chocolate. It just hadn't entered my head whatsoever.
yeah,
I just think chocolate fountain, waste of money, is basically my train of thought on it. It's messy, it sounds great, it looks great. In reality, it's not actually that good, in my experience. But I've probably never experienced a good chocolate fountain, perhaps.
perhaps, yeah. But I think it's absolutely. I kind of see where Brett is coming from, because there are fads that come in and out, and there are things that come in fashion and out of fashion very quickly. So essentially, you want to avoid becoming one of those fads, and it's not about what you do. I don't think that's the important thing here. Whether you're a magician, as you said, chocolate fountain, a sweet card, a photo booth. That's one of the things that everyone thought was going to be a fad, but is still here 5 years later.
Yeah.
So I think that the key thing here is to make sure that you are selling yourself as more than just a magician and as more as just a sweet cart. Because if you're just a sweet cart, you will be a fad. You'll be something that'll last a couple of years and then ultimately will run out of business. So make sure that you are not just being you. You're not just selling what you do. You're selling you and your personality and who you are and what you do. All of those things that make you a bit different and make you stand out from everyone else.
I think magic's been around for 2,000 plus years. I don't see it. I don't see it not being a thing in the future. If anything, it's gonna grow, because I think the thing is that whilst you can, a lot of magic is becoming more technologically advanced. I think that even when that is the case, some of the most amazing moments and incredible reactions that I get from what I do is still the time when I'm just using, 52 cards and two hands. It's the moments when it's like completely blow people away, and it's stuff that's been around for 400, 500 years, and I don't see the amazement to that changing.
Yeah, exactly. And the same applies to other things as well, like a photo booth. Some of the best photo, obviously, you can see some incredible photo booths that are full of technology and do all of these fun and fancy things. But at the end of the day, some of the best ones I've seen are like the old vintage ones that are just kind of there and are really well themed and looked after and look really cool, but
Yeah.
aren't necessarily technologically advanced at all. You know, sticking to the simple stuff, as long as you've got your USP and you're using it effectively, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
agree on that. I think we've pretty
yeah,
talked that one to death. But
I think so. So
yep,
that then moves us into talking about just very quickly mention Jamie Silk, who sold his first ever package and got an extra 50 quid by selling it
Jack's
as a
paused.
package.
Don't know what happened there.
Oh, hello.
Something happened. Um,
There we go. I'm back now. So
Good.
yeah, I was talking about Jamie Silk, who sold his first ever package, got an extra £50 that he wouldn't have got if he wasn't selling it as a package, which is
Boom.
great news for Jamie, and that's why we are big advocates of packages, because it allows you to upsell and cross sell and do all of these things that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just selling them one thing. So I think that's a really great thing that you've done there, Jamie.
Has he responded yet? Because I asked him where he got the idea from. Because I was interested to know where that had
Ooh,
come from. Because obviously, when people
he
start
hasn't
doing things,
replied to that.
Jamie, let us know. Let us know, mate. We want to know.
We are interested.
Because
Sure.
basically, we want you to say it's because you guys are amazing. And we go, yes, we are.
Oh, we know.
Hopefully,
You don't need to tell us that. We know.
it's
It's okay.
absolutely fine.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Um,
And just quickly,
so,
whilst we're on
go
the
on.
topic of packages, if you haven't seen it yet, we have a course, a free course, Wedding Industry Wisdom: How to Run a Successful Wedding Business, completely free, 2 hour course, and part of that is about packaging and pricing. So if you're not selling packages as part of your wedding business, go and check that out because I feel like it will be very useful for you.
Um, perfect. So we then had a point coming in from Nick Chapman, who is a friend of mine. He doesn't live too far away from me. He's a magician, as it happens, and he has been writing wedding blogs, which is great news. And he got contacted by someone who was reading one of his old blogs and wanted to promote it for him. Was my understanding of it. Um,
This is a weird one.
It was a bit weird, wasn't it? I'm going to read it out for everyone who, if anyone hadn't heard it or seen it or read it or any of those things. It's hi all. Since wedding blogs have recently been on the agenda here, I thought I would ask the group this question. I've been contacted by someone about one of my really old blogs. They want to link it to their website, fair enough, but they also suggested that they may sponsor me. Has anyone heard of this type of request before? I thought it seemed odd. I'll put the copy of the message, blah, 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 blah. Who would pay me to include a blog on their site? Was essentially his question.
Yeah, I've had a few things like that before come up where people say, "Oh, I want to do a guest blog thingy. Can I pay to advertise?" sort of thing, and that sort of thing. I just think that the amount of money that's going to be changing hands is probably going to be absolutely nominal, and I think that you've got one reputation, and once that's gone, it's it, because for all we know, it could have been something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, just give me your username and password, and I'll just go on there quickly. Add me as a editor, so I can put my blog up." And whilst you're doing that, they pack it and put, I don't know, unicorn porn on it or whatever. I don't know.
Everyone's favourite kind of porn, obviously.
Everyone's favorite, obviously. Would it be called uniporn? I like to think so.
That was horrendous. Yeah, I just find this to be a little bit weird, really, more than anything. I don't really, I've never had this happen to me before, personally. So
It's because you didn't
again,
write
that
your
just
own
shows.
blogs.
Yeah, that's probably it. But yeah, it just seems a little bit weird to me. So I would be very dubious of it. Um, I mean, I would potentially follow it down to a certain route until you start to feel a bit uncomfortable, and then at that point, just feel free to drop out because if you haven't given away any details or anything like that, I would potentially just go that far.
I think it depends on how
But
desperate you are for the money and how much time you have to spend on something.
yeah, I guess, and you kind of look at it this way, I guess. Like Bride magazine and the big like blog companies. So
Rock my wedding.
blimey, why have they all gone? Rock My Wedding. That's the one I was looking for. Thank you. They don't pay people to write on their blogs. They guest people on their blogs generally. So people write for their blog, write, and then if they get accepted, they get put on the website. So I feel like that's the way it normally works if it's for a reputable, decent company. And then this just all sounds a little bit iffy because of the money being exchanged. If there was no money being exchanged, it might be slightly different. But the money just makes it a little bit weird.
Yeah, it just sounds a little bit dodgy, I think. So I just wouldn't
So
bother.
yeah, no, I don't feel
But
like it's worth it.
yeah, I think that it's a kind of risk reward thing, and I think that neither sounds particularly high, but just I'd rather be playing poker on my phone for the time that I was doing that than wasting my time doing that,
Fair enough. That's
or or
interesting.
kicking crutches, or
That's probably what
actually
you would do, to be fair.
I'd rather be on gas and air.
Of course you would. That doesn't surprise me at all. Um, okay, let's move us on. So we had, of course, just to bring us back to 2 weeks ago, I did get covered in penis confetti. That popped up in the group a couple of times.
Okay,
Um,
I've got a confession to make.
yes, go on then, Chris. Give us your confession.
So there has been a lot of people who have been saying that I am responsible for sending the penis confetti bomb, or whatever you want to call it, to Jack. I want to go on record and say that is categorically not true. I did, however, send him the penis mug.
It was
The
you!
penis mug was... I sent you the penis mug.
Wow. Thank you for your honesty, Chris. I appreciate that. Um, I just wanted to
But
make sure that you... Go on.
as for the penis confetti on my children's life, I did not send that to you.
Okay. I want to make you aware of this, Chris, because I feel like you'll appreciate it. When one drinks out of a penis mug, which I've only done once, and I did it purely for your amusement, because I sent you the picture. When one drinks out of a penis mug, with a penis sticking out of the middle of the mug, every time they take a sip, one does get nudged on the nose by said penis. So every time. Every time I have a drink out of it, not that I do, obviously, but every time I would
I
take a
chose
sip, I would get covered or I'd get nudged by a penis on my nose.
I chose a very, very poor time to take a swig of water there. That
I'm
nearly
sorry.
became a spraying moment, but fortunately not. Yeah, so
Yeah,
my conscience is now clear.
good.
And for those of you, especially those of you who went to like a forensic level on the fact that I sent it,
Yeah,
you need to get a new job or something because you were, yeah, miles off. I'm
you were
afraid it
way
was
off.
not me.
Yeah, get out a little bit more
Way
maybe.
off.
So that
Yeah,
moves us on. I just wanted to bring that up because it always amuses me. The fact that and just to whoever did send the penis confetti, I do still occasionally find it on the floor, hidden in places I hadn't seen. Like behind the
and if
bin,
anyone
there's a
else wants
few.
to send him more penis paraphernalia,
Please
sign up
don't.
to our mailing list, and when you get an email, his
Please
address is at
don't.
the bottom. Um,
Well, I got something through the post on Saturday. Yeah, it was on Saturday because it's before I went to a wedding. Um, and I got back from Tesco because that's what I do a Saturday morning, and then I go usually work on Saturday
such a
afternoon.
rock star.
I know, I just live the high life, I tell you. So I got back from Tesco and I walked through the door and there was a parcel on the floor and I had no idea what it was. So as you can imagine at this point, my automatic assumption is someone else has sent me something with a penis on it. Instantly I jumped to that. Fortunately on this occasion it wasn't. My partner informed me it was actually a late birthday present. Um, but yes, I now instantly, whenever I see anything come through the post that I am not aware of it arriving, I instantly jump to that's a penis-related item from someone at Wedding Industry Wisdom. So thank you for instilling that confidence in you lot.
That's amazing. I like the fact that it's almost haunting you. That's quite something.
It is, yeah,
Um,
always haunting me. So that moves us on to Stephen Greenwood's comment. He put a little post up in the group asking about he was rewriting his copy for his website. And he was asking about whether to write in first or third person. Now, Chris is the copywriting expert here, really, and I say expert very loosely, but I do say it. So,
I
what are your thoughts on writing in
for
first or third
just a
person?
second then, I thought you were actually paying me a compliment.
Don't be ridiculous.
Ah. Um, yeah, I wasn't aware of Stephen, and I don't know him, so I didn't know he did. So I asked what he did, and he said he's a magician. And so I said categorically you should be writing it in first person. And I think that the same is absolutely true for anyone who is the sole person within the business, particularly in the case where you're going to be there on the day or interacting one on one with a couple, because as we've said 95,000 times, I think, so far since we've been doing Wedding Industry Wisdom. The ability to charge more money and the ability to kind of connect with people are intrinsically linked. It's if you can create a connection with someone so that you become the only possible choice, then they will pay whatever you say, basically, within reason. But it's first person. So I did this, I did that. I will come to your wedding. I will do this. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable writing in it first because you have to kind of big yourself up. So you have to speak confidently. So when you're saying I'm really good, it can feel a little bit because no one likes bigging themselves up. But if there's any place to big yourself up, it's there on your website. I recently made a change from third person to first person, and I cannot tell you how much more I enjoy writing stuff on my website now. It just feels so much more natural. I don't have to think about it. I can write a lot more conversationally, and it just makes sense from my point of view. If you're a bigger company, if you're, let's say you're a photo booth company and you've got 9 different photo booths which people can have their pick of, then perhaps that's definitely the place to be going into the third person, because But if you're a stationer making handmade items, absolutely they want to be able to feel the fact that you're going to be there sat at home making those bits and pieces for your wedding. That that is what it's all about. So I think I don't think I've got anything else to say on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it comes down to how you run your business. If you are the only person in your business, then you should be writing in the first person. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable thing to expect because then you are going to build that better connection if you are a large company. So I've tested both. I've had both on my website, and I've had both as single person running a business and also as having a VA, so it's an assistant running the inquiry side of the business. And I noticed that when it was just me, it worked better as a single writing in first person, and then as soon as I brought on my assistant, was when writing in the third person, sorry, made a lot more sense, and it converted better as well over the long run because it had that consistency. Because when the emails started going to them once they inquired, they were in the mindset of third person writing. Like Jack doesn't just work for him, Jack isn't just there for himself. There's other people working with him, running the business side of it as well. So it kind of just kept that consistency running through. So you want to make sure that your website and your emails stay consistent because it will help increase your conversion rate in the long run.
Yeah, Denise says, I write as though I'm sitting in my living room and having a conversation with them, much more personal. Yeah,
I
I
agree.
couldn't, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So that moves us into the next comment, which was made by Jason, who appears on this podcast quite a lot, which is great because he asks a lot of questions. He put a lot of things out there. So if you do have any questions you guys have, then do put them in the group, and we will discuss them on the podcast as well as on the thread itself.
Yep.
So Jason was talking about collaborating with event suppliers and organisers. What works? How does it work? What are the win-wins? How can you kind of collaborate with other people, essentially? How do you work with other suppliers and organisers?
Um, I I just think that it's a fairly small community. The wedding industry, well, it's kind of big and it's kind of big, but it's kind of tight knit and small at the same
Yeah.
time. Does it, that make sense? And I think that categorically you should be thinking about what you can do to help other suppliers all the time. And I think that the biggest thing to do is to be doing this without any thought about what you're going to get back from it, which I think is probably completely backwards to how most people think about things. They go, right, I want to get this out of this person, so I'm going to offer to do this for them. And that's when you think about it, it's not great, is it? You know,
No.
if that's how you're looking at it. So I, at the moment, am doing a lot. So I'm currently doing a lot of interview style blogs with. So I'm going to be doing one or two of them every single month, and I'm going to keep doing that for the foreseeable future because I think it's great content. It's a great way for me to introduce my followers to other wedding suppliers. It's a great chance for them to sell their business without feeling like they're selling because they're just talking to me. You know, it's and I've written a blog myself on the Wedding Industry Wisdom page about how to do write one of these blogs because it's the simplest blog you can write because all you have to do is have a chat on Facebook Messenger. It's that simple. If you can have a chat on Facebook Messenger, you can write one of these blogs because that is essentially all it is, and then tart it up a bit essentially. So that's how I work with other suppliers, with organisers. I think that you're probably better qualified to talk about that than I am because I know that a lot of your work comes direct from planners and events companies, whereas I have some good connections. I wouldn't say I've got any really very tight knit connections, but I've got a few that whenever they need a magician, I'm the only person they'd ever think of, and when they do, it just happens. So you've probably got more to add on the event organizer side of things because you just get called out to Monaco last minute. Yep.
Does
So
happen, yeah. It's a hard life. So how do I how do I go about building
you
relationships? Sorry,
nearly didn't sound smarmy then.
nearly. I know it's hard not to when you're as good as me. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not really a dick. So
Sure are.
how do I go about getting? Yeah, yeah, I know. Getting recommendations from venues, suppliers, and organisers, that kind of thing. Essentially, I'm just a nice guy. I put on this act where people think I'm nice, and yeah. So I just keep in contact with them. Really, it's nothing more complicated than that. So
Yeah.
like most of the time, what I feel like happens for most people who are trying to get into doing this kind of thing of collaboration is, as you said, it's very what can they do for me? What can they do for me? How can I, when you're trying to find partners to collaborate with, you're going, who's the best person for me, rather than looking at it as who am I the best person to help,
Yeah.
and who can I add the most value to. So in my particular instance, obviously I want to be the only magician that they're talking to. So the fact that they haven't got a magician means that I'm advantageous. I can offer them something. I can offer them a magician. I can offer them an entertainment alternative that they don't currently have. And then it's just a case of keeping
Yeah.
that relationship building. So how do you build a friendship? Really, is the question. And while I don't know that because I'm not human, I have studied humans enough to be able to understand how the human brain works. No, it's just being a nice guy. So sending them chocolates every now and then. Obviously, that you wouldn't necessarily do that. That's not the best idea. But you want to kind of just be there, be present, be the person they're always thinking about. Whether that's sending them something on their birthday, send them a card at Christmas time. Maybe those kind of things are just good things to do. Because if you have to spend 50, 60, £100 a year on each of your relationships, but they bring you 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 pounds a year because you have that connection,
Money well spent.
that's great. Exactly, it's money absolutely well spent. And the thing is, if you are a photographer, for example, most of these people have three, four, five, six different photographers on their books because that's just the nature of the business. There are about a million different photographers you can book. So how can you stand out from everyone else so that when they meet up with their clients, they're going, right, you are the perfect couple for this photographer. So you also think about it that way. It's not just about making sure you're front of mind. You want to be front of mind for the right kinds of clients. So find a way that you can stand out and do things that other people aren't doing. Really,
Yeah.
that's the key thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I'm very, very able to do, which more or less no one else can do. So it's not particularly good advice. But obviously, those of you that know that I wrote a book on stress-free wedding planning, because basically one didn't exist. And once I was able to get copies of it, I sent a copy to the wedding coordinator at all of the venues that I work at. And it was well, it was a threefold thing. Number one, I genuinely wanted to know what they thought of the book. So it's been in nearly a year, so at some point one of them will read it. You know, but that was one part of it. Second part of it is that let's like if you get given a something like a book, as opposed to a brochure or a flyer or something like that, it takes up some physical space, so it has to sit somewhere. So that's probably still sat on all of their desks, sat there all day, every day, just as a literal constant reminder of Chris the Magician.
Yeah,
And then obviously they can then recommend not just me, but they can recommend the book. So if they have a bride come in who's like crazy stressful, they can recommend the book, and then by proxy, they're recommending me. So
yeah.
it's
And so here's an idea. So this is something that I'm probably going to start implementing because it's something I've just done myself. So I'm a big fan of kind of like puzzles and quizzes and like escape rooms, those kind of things. I love those type of things. So I'm a big fan of those. And for my birthday, my partner bought me this book, which is kind of like a escape room in a book, essentially. It's really, really good. I finished it, and so whenever anyone says to me that they like escape rooms, that's the first thing I'm going to buy them and have sent to them because it's finding something that's a little bit personal, a little bit different, and something that they're going to go whenever they sit down to work out one of the puzzles in the book, they're going to think of me, and they're probably going to be really annoyed that I sent it to them in the first place because it's really freaking hard, but it is really good as well. So you got to find things that they will care about and they will like. And they're going to think of you about, and it's better than you just sending them 150 brochures or 150 business cards because they're going to throw those in the
everyone
bin.
else has done that to them
Exactly.
already. So yeah, I think we've talked that one to death.
We have talked that one to get death, so I'm going to quickly go through a couple more before we run out of time here. I know we started a little bit late, so we will probably run a little bit late as well. You put a picture up on, I believe it would have been Sunday, uh, of a picture of a advertising called Cake, full stop.
Caked.
Caked, full stop. Yes.
Oh, caked.
Now, I appreciate that doing this as a podcast is perhaps not the best move, but we're going to try and talk about this ever so slightly, ever
It's
so quickly.
I think that it doesn't matter that you can't see any of it, or I don't have it to hand, whatever. If you have a laptop handy, it's from last Sunday, which would have been the
The 20th.
20th. Yeah, what I loved about it is I've encountered a lot of cake companies, and it is completely different to every single other one I've ever seen. It's just very simple, caked, full stop, and the full stop does a lot. It just
Yeah,
it, I can't put into words why it makes it that much more impactful, but it's just something about the way you then say it to yourself in your head
caked.
is caked.
Yeah, and it's the thing. Like you made that point that it's very different to any other type of cake company branding. Like every other cake branding company has got swirly, scripty fonts and has got a very royal type,
or
goldy,
tiered
tiered
words.
things. Like it's all very, very. Everyone has a very similar logo because they're all doing pretty much the same thing. But you see this. This is black font, and it looks like it's Arial, so it's pretty standard font that you'd get as standard on pretty much any computer you buy. And it just says "caked," full stop, bespoke wedding cakes, and it's a picture of one of their cakes. And I think
Yeah.
it stands out. It makes you go. It makes you take notice of them. Now it's going to put some people off, but that's what branding should do. You want it to put people off because it's going to bring the people who you are trying to attract even closer to you. So I think that caked is a brilliant way of standing out in terms of your branding, and see how you can do that within your business. What you can do to make you stand out from everyone, all the other photographers, all the other photo booths, all the other um, cake makers, all of those things. You want to see how you can stand out from them.
And you won't be very surprised to find out that I had a chat with Claire, who's now a member of the group. I had a chat to her.
Congratulations, Claire.
Yeah, and yeah, won't be surprised to find out that she has got a background in marketing. So
There you go.
there you go. Um, Not much more
And
to
then
say
we
on that.
move. Yeah, no, I think that kind of sums it up beautifully. So you put a post up on audience retargeting, Chris. Now, obviously, we're not going to run through this in its entirety now, but you might want to just quickly explain what audience retargeting is. And for those who want to find out more, you can head to Wedding Industry Wisdom Group, join it if you're not already a member, and you can scroll back to the 22nd of October 2019, or just search for audience retargeting in the group and it will pop up as probably the only thing in there, or the most important thing in there. It'll pop up near the top. So
Yep.
there you go. Do you want to talk about it very quickly, Chris, as you are the expert in it?
Yes. So basically, audience retargeting is if you've ever been on Amazon and you've searched for something on there and then not bought it, and then you've gone back onto Facebook and then you see that item on your Facebook for the next 2 weeks or whatever, that is audience retargeting. So anyone listening is able to do this. All you need is to have the Facebook pixel code installed on your website. That's a very, very simple job to do. It will take, if you've got web guys who do stuff for you, it will take them 5 minutes. So don't let them charge you lots of money. If you are even slightly tech savvy, you will be able to do this yourself. It's just installing a very small snippet of code. And then, yeah, basically what you can do is you can set up whatever audience you want. So I went through two different retargeting audiences. One is one where it would retarget everyone who's been to a page on your website which contains the word wedding in the link. So I mean, every single wedding blog I do has wedding in it somewhere for that very reason, so that I can target anyone who's read any of my blogs. And you can do that within the last 5 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, like within the last year or whatever. So you can retarget everyone who's read your blogs, and then you can send them an ad that says, "Hey, hope you enjoyed the blog. Have you thought about booking your cake maker or whatever yet?" And the other type of audience retargeting I set up was video retargeting. So if you are the sort of person who puts a lot of videos onto your page, and I put a fair amount on, you can target people who've watched just 3 seconds of your video, or 25%, or 50, or 75, or 95. And obviously, because the longer they've watched something, the more interested they are, but then the smaller the number is. So you have to kind of find that happy medium. But you can say, all of these things, all these videos here that I've put up that relation to weddings, anyone who's watched 10 seconds or more, or 25% or whatever, I'm going to send them an advert, which is going to be a video again, which is a lot more of a direct selling video, because it comes down to that point again where, it's a reminder. So rather than just going straight in for the, "Hey, book me," it's the only showing it to people who have already seen or interacted or done something to do with you first of all.
Perfect. Sum that up very nicely. Very well done. So then if we move straight into a post put up by Christian Fletcher, and he was talking about pricing and justifying your fees. This is a really
This is the best
interesting post. I'm going to read out to you guys so you can hear it and you can understand what the post is. And just before I read that out, I want to say thank you to Grant Maidment, who I know is watching, who has just purchased the closer's guide. So that is still available at £15 as you listen to this live right now. So if you haven't bought it, go and buy it. But Christian
It's
Fletcher
only until
has
midnight.
only until midnight. Very true. Christian Fletcher put up a post saying, "Catching up on The Apprentice from a few weeks back, and this really made me chuckle. You'll see many people asking how to justify their fees. The reality is the customer doesn't care about how much your materials cost, how long you've trained for, how much you've spent on advertising, how much your insurance costs, how many kids you've got to feed. They just want to know if what you're selling is any good. To answer your question of why should you charge so much, why do you charge so much, the reply should only ever be because I'm worth it. You don't have to be L'Oreal, but you can get your point across in a very similar way."
Yeah. For those that don't know, the video itself
Oh yes,
was
sorry,
a
thank you.
just for a reference point. The video itself showed someone from The Apprentice handing someone
The lolly.
a lolly, is it? And he says, "Oh, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning making those," and the woman's response was, "I don't care. That's your job."
It's
And it's
true.
like,
And then he did change his. So I do watch The Apprentice. This guy is a guy called Richard. If you do watch it, he's a pillow salesman by trade, and he is the most Cockney man you've ever met in your life, and could probably sell snow to Eskimos. And he was selling £3.50 lollies. I think they were. They were like £3. They were obscenely expensive for a lolly. But yeah, it's a great point, and that's the thing is you need to be able to justify your fees beyond your material costs and your training and all that kind of stuff. It's what you actually do. Like those stuff are for the client is irrelevant. They don't care about any of that stuff. They care about the product you're going to deliver on the wedding day or the service you're going to deliver on the wedding day and making sure it is worth the price that you are charging for that thing that you are delivering. So make sure you are delivering something that is more valuable than the price you're charging.
yeah, I think it's. I mean, we've covered this several times before in the past, but I
Yeah.
think I don't think we can ever cover it too many times. Really, is that like I think that the difference between when me and Jack sell compared to how a lot of people sell, and I'm not saying this in a kind of egotistical way, it's just in a experience way, is that I'm not even thinking about telling them the price at all. All I'm doing is I'm getting to know them, getting to know what their issues are, getting to know how I can help them, seeing if they're interested, and then putting the different packages in front of them and saying, oh, which one's going to work best before I'm even mentioning. Price is literally the last thing I want them to be thinking of because that's the last thing I'm thinking of. It's almost this, at the end they go, oh yeah, how much is that by the way? And it should almost be an afterthought. That's what happens when if you sell well. Is that I mean for some people no matter what, it'll be like, oh my god, what? I can't pay that. In which case you were talking to the wrong person in the first place. And for if you're talking to the right person, and like, okay, perfect. So what percentage deposit do you need? Okay, I'll get that paid for you tomorrow. So
Yeah.
because we had it before, I think from Jason saying, oh, how shall I break down the mileage on my invoice? Don't.
Don't.
You just go, it's this is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah. For a corporate client, it's not that we're not in the corporate world, we're in the wedding world, but for corporate clients, sometimes they do want you to break it down if you ever do a corporate event. There's something to ask the client how they want the invoice to be referenced. But for weddings, just to give them the price.
Yeah, because yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um,
So Ian's put a question on. Ian says, if they ask outright by email, do you ask for a number to call them to speak or send the prices? So Chris and I are both the same in this, in that we don't talk about price unless we are on the phone with them in the first place. So can't really answer that question other than to get them on the phone earlier on in your sales process.
um, I, I will occasionally. Well, no, the only time I will talk price not on the phone is if I've decided I've basically given up on it entirely. In which case they'll get put into a longer term campaign to which I don't expect them to respond ever.
Yeah.
I think that the we've said this before, but when you're putting together your ideal client and you put together your inquiry process, you should be looking to be removing people from it. There should be certain bars of entry. So you don't want to be making things difficult for people, but for inquiring, I ask for a few details. Not loads of details, but enough details that I can then give them a price straight away. Now, if someone can't be bothered to fill in those fields correctly, then I don't want to work for them because it's not it's not a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, if someone can't be bothered to talk on the phone, then it's like when you get an email like every now and again or a Facebook inquiry that says, "How much are you?" It's like, I mean, I'll never not respond, but my response will be always, I need the following information. Would you like to talk on the phone?
Yeah.
And then most of the time, all they wanted for me to say was a number less than their top budget for them to say, okay, I'll book you in. And because they then have to respond by typing out a full message of where and when they're getting married, God forbid, that they lose interest, in which case I was never interested in the first place.
Yeah, they're not the clients for you, are they? If they are at that level and they want that, then you're not the kind of person you're not going to fit in well with their wedding, so you're not the right fit for them.
Yeah,
So you just kind of let it go, really. You don't worry about it.
yeah. The only other, and I've had this a few times, is when people take the time to explain from the outset that they are on really weird shift patterns and it's very difficult to kind of lock down a definite time to talk on the phone, etc., etc. And I go, you know what? The fact that you've taken the time to explain that means that yeah, I will,
Yeah.
I will bend to your process to a certain extent because you've taken the time to actually explain that rather than just not. So
Fair
yeah,
enough. Yeah. So hopefully that's answered your question, Ian. But yeah, we would talk generally the 9 times out of 10 we would talk price and numbers over the phone rather than via email. So hopefully that's helped. And then the rest of the week really has been talking about the most important thing that's happened all week. Second most important thing after, of course, you breaking your toe, is the fact that we released our new product. I say our new product. Chris released his new product with a little bit of input from me.
Jack was more involved than I was joking about earlier. It was a I wrote basically 95% of it, but Jack did. We were back and forthing over a lot of it. Jack added a couple of extra things in, proofread it, and other bits
I
and
made it look
pieces.
pretty as well.
Made it look pretty, and I think that because we talk a lot and we have a similar style with things, a lot of what I've put in is stuff that we've kind of not deliberately honed in on together, but for particular closes, I've said, oh, I say this, and then Jack's come back and said, oh, have you tried saying this? So
It's
it's
all
all
in
been
there as yeah, from the both
it,
of us really.
yeah, it has my name on it, but it's both of our works. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that is
It is called So How Do I Pay the Deposit Closing Wedding Clients? It is, if you are listening live, it's £15 at the moment, but by the time this podcast goes out, it will be up at full price of £25 because it goes up at midnight tonight, which is Monday. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday or any later on in the week, then it will be full price and you would have missed
too
out.
late.
I mean, it's still £25 is still a bargain though. It's 8,000 over 8,000 words, over 20 closes in there, and it is pretty much a drag and drop system. Like you can kind of just take it, adapt it to your business, and you're ready to go. Those closes are ready to put straight into your business. So I don't know what
Yeah,
else you want to add about it, really, Chris.
well, we were speaking about this a little bit earlier, and it, this is going to sound crap, but I'm going to say it anyway. But I honestly think that buying this, unless you're already an exceptional closer, I think that buying this will probably give you the largest percent ROI on anything you ever invested on in your business ever.
Yeah,
Um, I think that let's say you charge like 500 quid normally, and let's say you get this at full price at £25, if you can convert one £500 client that you wouldn't have converted otherwise, your ROI is like what, large,
2,000%, 200%.
something like that,
Yeah.
2,000%, 4,000. I don't know. It's a large number. I've taken lots of coding.
2,000 is 2,000%.
Is it 2,000%?
Yeah.
Yes, it's 2,000%. 2,000%
I know.
ROI.
So yeah, I think it's a brilliant product, and said there's over 20 closes in there, 8,000 words, 30 pages, and it's full of stuff we've worked and honed over the years of actually doing this stuff, and it's not got and this is the problem with a lot of salesy techniques and salesy things you'll find on the internet, is a lot of them are full of horrible, sleazy, hard selling tactics. Where
Yeah.
you're kind of always trying to fight the client, and you're always trying to get that extra push and trying to convert anyone and everyone into something at some level or not. We're not trying to do that. Instead, we're talking to the people who are maybes, umming and ahhing, and are kind of on the edge, and we're converting those people with these closes. We're here to it's custom built for the wedding industry, essentially, because we know there's hard selling tactics don't work for the wedding industry, not just because it doesn't work for the clients, but it doesn't work for the majority of the people in the wedding industry, because we're all, on the whole, like sole traders, individual businesses who are just doing it because we love what we do. The people that make stationery love making stationery. It doesn't suit the hard sell, and the people who love photography don't usually suit the hard sell very well. So, and the same applies obviously across the board. So we've got rid of any hard selling tactics, and if there's anything that's even remotely touching on medium selling, we make that very clear that this is harder than
Yeah,
the rest of it. But there's still nothing that I would say is even
there's
lukewarm selling, really.
there's no hard selling it whatsoever. There's a couple of things in there that are a little bit ballsy. I think that you've got to have confidence in selling, regardless. But it's all stuff that can be learnt. But there's some very, very soft sells, and there's some very, very easy sells in there. And the biggest one and the most effective one of the lot, I'll give you right now, because we said it before, is just actually asking for the bloody money. You have clients stood there waiting for you to say, would you like to buy this? Would you like to book me? Would you like to whatever? And you're not asking, they're not doing it, and then they end up going okay, and then they're probably walking away thinking, why didn't they ask? Brett's just put a comment on, but
Yeah, he has. I'll read it out for you guys. So he says sometimes we being me and you, make the wedding business sound really cynical. Think you should maybe always remember the wedding business is a very personal market, particularly compared to the corporate market, which he's used to traditionally performing in. The wedding market is a much nicer place to be able to deliver a very personalised approach, which is exactly what we're talking about here, really, Brett. You need to be, but there's kind of that fine line between being really soft and squishy and being a pushover. You kind of need to find that middle ground there. It's not easy to find that middle ground, and you need to still be able to. You can be a nice guy, and you can be really personable and all of those kind of things, but you still need to ask for the money at the end of the day. It's still a transactional business. You still need to get their money, and you still need to feed your family, essentially. So I appreciate exactly what you're saying, and we know it's a lot softer sell than, the corporate market. I do a little bit in. It's not my main area of business at all, but it does require a different approach, and you're absolutely right with that. And you can still be soft in terms of your approach and get the kind of the business side to work with you as well.
Yeah, I think that certainly we're very clinical about it. I think that regardless of what business you run, whether you're selling cars or whether you're selling soft toys, do you think that the people that run Fisher Price are really kind of lovey-dovey about getting their accounts absolutely like, doesn't matter, we sell soft toys.
Oh, you missed a zero there. Don't worry about that too much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the 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 business side of things has to be done properly, and the better you do the business side, the better your business will be. But I think that we've got to, when you look at the how we set up the membership side of our business, where we called it wild membership, and we have your zebras and your giraffes and your lions. We are trying to make it fun. We are trying to make it different. We are trying to make it interesting. But there has to be times when you've got to be like really hard with people, and there's times when you have to be super soft with people. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I've got a booking for this Saturday, and they paid the deposit, and then the grooms walked out on her 3 weeks before the wedding. The venues turned around and said, you have to pay 100%. My contract says they owe me 100%. I've turned around and said, don't worry about it. So is that a hard and clinical way to run the business? No, it's a bloody stupid way to run the business. I should be demanding some money, particularly with the amount of money that my back has cost me this year. But there's sometimes you just got to do what feels right in the place where Jack has a stone. Heart. Jack.
Yes, that heart thing. Yeah, no, I've heard about it. I know about it. Brett does say Coolio to that, so hopefully that's kind of helped there. We do, I do understand what you're saying, and but you still, the business side of the business still needs to be a business at the end of the day. No matter how big, small, who you're targeting, who your audiences are, you need to have a solid business in place, because otherwise you will end up in trouble. So hopefully that's helped. Hopefully that's answered your questions. Going back to unless you've got any more points you want to make on that, Chris?
No, I do not.
Cool. Back to, so how do I pay the deposit? Closing wedding clients said this is on sale for £15 until the end of today. If you are watching this live, if you are not, then it is already back up to £25. And it's well worth the £25. We want to get this in the hands of as many people as possible. That's why we've priced it at this low price. We could have priced it at £100, £200, and it would have been well worth the price, in our opinion. So £25 is a steal. You can pick it up on our website. I've put the link in the description or in the comments, so you can head back to that. If you are not listening to this live and you are listening to the podcast, you can head to www.weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk and you can find it in the courses section. It'll also be at the very top of the website, I would have thought, once Chris fixes it. It'll be halfway down the homepage. It'll be halfway down the homepage.
Halfway down the front page, definitely.
You'll find it down there for sure. And that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else to add, is there, Chris?
No, I don't think so. I don't want to reiterate just how good this thing is, but it is really, really good. I honestly think it's the best product we have put out there. But we very, very nearly decided to put this out for 75 quid. It was, and eventually we just went, people will not pay 75 quid for a PDF, even though it is worth way more than that. Yes. If you're sensible, you're going to buy it. So either buy it now for 15 or buy it later for 25 quid. I'm happy if you buy it later.
Yes. Thank you guys.
That was a medium sell. That was
a very good medium sell. We will be back next week at 7 o'clock with another live. Hopefully we'll be on time and everything will run smoothly this time.
Oh, we missed something.
Oh, what have we missed?
We've missed the fact that you may or may not have realised, people who are listening, that membership is reopening.
It is. Good point. I forgot that.
Yeah, membership is reopening as of, so you can become a member of Wild Membership. You have missed out on the one-time offer for 20% off. That was been and gone. We have our members who are paying the 20% less per month, but membership is open as of the 5th of November.
I thought it was the 4th. Might have been the 5th. I can't remember now.
4th or the 5th. One of
Bear
those
with
days.
me. You'll find out in a second because I'll work it out.
Well, there's a competition running as well. There is the reason why I'm mentioning it, and it's your your chance to win 3 months of free membership at giraffe level, which is worth 180 of your English pounds. And all you have to do to enter is to go onto the Wedding Industry Wisdom page, and there is a photo of Jack mid-confetti opening And yes, all you have to do is put on an amusing caption, be funny, be original, and we will choose the comment which we find the most amusing, and that person will win 3 months of free membership. It's that simple. So to find out the winner, just listen in live next week. And also we have a huge announcement about the membership, which you will definitely want to tune in for. So that is next Monday from 7 p.m. I've been Chris Piercy. Jack has been Jackie B. Brister. And
Jackie B. Brister.
see, you're starting to like it. And we'll catch you next week. Any questions, put them on the group, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.